All right, so this is Kenny Santos out of Toronto, Canada for KennySantos.com. Do you want to know what you really need to keep in mind? Like the number one thing that you need to keep in mind if you are growing your network marketing business and you're doing it with a limited time constraint. Maybe you're a busy parent, or maybe you're a busy executive, or maybe, you're holding down 2 or 3 jobs and you feel like you just don't have time to grow your business. What do you do? What can you do? We're going to talk about that. But before I get into the content, if you are getting value from my blog, from my audios, from my videos, all that stuff, fun stuff, my content, I invite you to do something super easy, super simple. I invite you to either like, subscribe, share, comment. It's a super easy way and a simple way for you to support my blog and to do so for free. So let's get into this. Is that one of the biggest obstacles is that we lack the time to grow our business. And maybe you just have a busy job, you work long hours. Maybe you have 2 jobs or 3 jobs and you work even more hours. Maybe you work a part-time job or a full-time job and you have to get home and maintain the house. You got kids to take care of. By the time the kids get put to bed, then it's too late. All that stuff. Like, how do you grow your business when you have limited time? And when I say limited time, like, could you grow a business in less than an hour a day? Yeah, you can, right? It's not as good as if you spent 2 or 3 hours a day, but you can grow a business in less than an hour a day. You can do it on less than half an hour a day. I've heard stories that you can do that. Now, it's not ideal, right? I was actually listening to a podcast, about, growing a 6-figure income with limited time. And it is possible. It's just not ideal. And, obviously, well, I wouldn't say obviously, but logically, the person, if they are working their business properly, the one that's doing it 2 hours a day is going to do it twice as fast or faster than the guy that's doing it 1 hour a day, right? And so all that math that goes in there, if you can only do it 15 minutes a day, hey, at least you're doing it 15 minutes a day. But I assure you that if that 15 minutes that you're working on each and every day compared to someone that is unfocused and they're working their business 2 or 3 hours a day, you just might be getting more done than them, and you can make more money than them, and you can advance farther than them. You can be more productive than them, and ultimately more successful in the business than them, just as long as you are focused. And one thing you want to think about is this, is that if you've ever been to the gym, working out, it's the new year. Actually, we're in February now. So some people set a New Year's resolution to get healthier, and they went to the gym and now they've already given up. But you can go to the gym and you can spend a couple hours there, and it might not even be, you might not get in shape. Like, you might walk around, you look at the machines, maybe you pick up one of those protein shakes and you spend, half hour drinking that down, and you're talking with people, and then you're looking at machines and thinking, yeah, I got to do that one of these days. I think I'll work on next time I work on my chest, I'll do that. And, I should really work on my cardio. Today's not cardio day, but tomorrow's cardio day. And let's say you spend an hour, right? Drinking your shake, and, you do that and you never got anything done, right? And there's people that pay a lot of money on a gym membership and they don't go to the gym. Well, they go to the gym, but it's more social for them. They get in, they get changed, they work out, but it's really not focused, and they have their shake and they take a shower and then they go home, where someone could come in and really, like, if they're focused, they can make some major body changes, in 15 minutes a day. They might not even have to go to a gym to do that. If they just decided to do 15 minutes of cardio every day, if they jumped rope 15 minutes a day, focused, right? Actually, that's a long time to jump rope, but I think you get the idea, right? Someone could get farther along if what they're doing is focused. Because when I was working this business, especially when I first got started, and we're going on my 20-year anniversary next year, 2023. I started this profession in 2003. So we're going on 20 years soon. And when I first started, I would procrastinate, and I would procrastinate all the time. All right. And I would think I was growing my business, and I would do that 2 or 3 hours a day. I'd look at my leads, and I thought I had a lot. And then I would call them, and then I would kind of, I'd read sales books, because I thought, well, if I'm going to call my leads, I have to know how to sell, right? And then I would study the comp plan, And then I would study the company, and then I would study, the founders, and then I would study overcoming objections. I was doing all this studying, but I wasn't taking any action. And so I thought that I was working the business because I was like, well, I put in 3 hours today, I put in 2 hours today, but really I wasn't. I was avoiding all the MMAs, the money making activities, all the IPAs, the income producing activities. So if you are spending that time doing income producing activity, even if it's 15 minutes a day, again, that's not ideal, you can start to make some income in this. And then that 15 minutes, you might find more pockets of time here and there. And ultimately, the one thing to keep in mind is this. I said it at the beginning, but the one thing that you want to keep in mind is that there's always time to prospect. There's always time to make at least one call. I actually have accountability coaching that I work with, and basically you're set up in a group, and you're accountable to the group about the amount of prospecting you're going to do each day, right? And so, a good place to start is less than 10 calls a day, right? And I do suggest phone calls, and we could talk about why. But some people will just say, I'll do 5 calls a day. And then by the time they meet next week, whether they're working 5 days a week or 6 days a week or 7 days a week, they're going to have done 25 to 35 calls, right? And they got to report that to the group, and they got to be honest about that. And, there is actually a financial penalty. There's a fine if they don't do it, right? And so it's a great program. If you need to take action, then you got to, take part in the accountability coaching, because it works really, really well. And you're going to make some calls. You're going to start creating some income. And then we talk about that during the coaching call. But ultimately, there was this guy. His name is Alejandro. He was out of Idaho, and he set a goal. I can't remember if it was 7 calls a day or whatever it was, but he was supposed to be making somewhere between 30 and 40 calls for that week. And he didn't make any calls. This is like week 2. And no, he said, I'm sorry. He said, I'm sorry to the group. And I just called him out, and I said, Alejandro, you could make 1 call this whole week. And he just kind of said, you know what? I could have made 1 call. I said, well, if you could have made 1 call, how many could you have made? I said, I probably could have made, maybe 10 calls this week. And that's without even thinking or trying. I said, but you didn't make them because there's this all or nothing attitude. It's like, well, if I can't commit an hour, then I can't commit, that's not enough time. But ultimately, 5 calls a day, if you commit that, or even 1 call a day, 1 call a day is 5 calls a week. That's more than what most network marketers do. Most network marketers don't call anybody. I mean, that's why they're not making any money. All right. So if you can commit to that, 1 call a day, even if you start off at 1 call a day, by the next week, you're only working 5 days a week, you're saying you're going to call 5 people, that is going to turn into 2 calls a day, then 10 calls a day. You're going to find out it's a lot easier, and you kind of get there. And that is what, when you're working on limited time budgeting, that's the power of just kind of like compounding all these pockets of time here and there while you're commuting, while you are in line at the grocery store, while you're maybe not on hold, but, during your lunch break, for example, during, all these different times that you could do some prospecting. And it might not feel like ideal to you, but it's something that you could start with. And if you start with that, you're going to find yourself, you're going to start getting some wins. And when you start getting some wins, and that first win might be, someone, hey, they looked at the information and now they want to come to the meeting, or they want to see they want to see a webinar, and they want to get a follow-up. Right. And then you have a couple other people, they're further along, maybe they're looking for the cash, and the other people are near the beginning of the process. And you have all these people in different levels of the process, all because you did 1 or 2 calls a day. And or maybe you just start off with 1 or 2 calls a day, and now it's up to 5 or 10 calls a day. I'll tell you, 10 calls a day is much less than an hour a day, much less than an hour. And if you do 10 calls a day, that's 50 calls a week, or depending on 7 days a week, 70 calls a week. You're doing much more than 95% of network marketers out there. And you are going to be earning some income. And that's much less than an hour a day. Is it ideal? Should you be calling more? Yes, you should be calling more. But it is much better than calling none. You got to be calling some. All right. And it starts off small, right? You have limited time. It starts off small. But all of a sudden, you think, I could do a lot more than this. It's time for me to call more during my commute. It's time for me to call more during, this time, maybe you're bringing your kid to swim practice or, to a basketball event. And you may, of course you want to spend some time in the stands, right? Cheering your child on. But what about the warm up time? Maybe during that warm up time, you step out of the gym because it's quieter, or you step out of the field, you go to the car, whatever the case may be, get some prospecting done. Do 1 or 2 calls. That adds up. And that is how you build a business when you have limited time. All right. You find those pockets of time that you have just kind of that could be productive, but they're not. They're not yet. And so important, you got to be prepared. All right. Be prepared, meaning have some phone numbers, have a list of prospects, and maybe time it. So like if you're going to call your prospects during your lunch break, maybe send, because a lot of people, they don't use the phone as much for, there's a lot of messaging and stuff. Send your prospects a message if they're your warm market. Hey, Bob, need to chat with you about something really quick. Could I call you during my lunch? All right. Then he knows that when you call during lunch, like that you wanted to talk to him, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, who's Kenny, right? Oh, or Kenny. Yeah, I'll let it go to the voicemail. Why is it so important? Sometimes they just don't answer your call in this day and age. Give them a text first. There's a way to prepare for this. All right. A couple of ways to prepare is have your list of prospects ready. 2 is if you're going to call them and they're your warm market and you don't talk to them all that often, or you hardly ever talk to them, you hardly ever call them because you're used to texting, let them know you're going to call. So listen, I need to talk to you during my lunch hour. It's important to me. Do you have some time at 12 o'clock? And by the way, notice I didn't do any prospecting during that text. All right. It's not like, hey, listen, I want to talk to you about this amazing opportunity that's invented, has this amazing product that's found in in the Amazon, and it's invented by Dr. and so. No hype, right? You don't talk about it. You say, hey, listen, I need to talk to you about something important. Could I call you at 12? Could I call you during my lunch? That sort of thing. And so that is how you build a business. And this is how winners win. All right. You'll find that the busiest people, they can be the most productive, while the non-busy people, they spend most of their time just kind of dilly-dallying, wasting time and procrastinating. You know how the Army says we get more done by 6 o'clock than, people get done all day. You can do the same thing with prospecting. Listen, I get more done in 5 minutes than most network marketers get done all week, because most network marketers don't make 1 call. You make 1 and you're doing more than most of them. Right? You make 2, then, it's doing more. You make 10 calls a day, it's more than that. And so, listen, I feel like I'm rambling now, but I feel like that you do get the message. Don't be that guy that goes to the gym and drinks the shake and kind of doesn't work out. Be the guy that goes in and actually gets stuff done, that when he's there, he's focused, and that when he leaves, he actually has those changes and transformation in his body that he's looking for. So I trust you got some great value out of that. Right. But I say, be that guy in the gym, but also be that guy when you're working your business. When you're working your business, instead of, studying the comp plan or the company, right? Or how to prospect or how to close or how to overcome objections, just make calls, right? You're going to learn a lot more that way, and you're going to make a lot more money that way, period. You'll learn a lot more than reading any book, right? I'm not saying don't read any books, but we're talking like spend 15 minutes a day reading books, spend the rest of the time prospecting. So again, trust you got some great value out of that. If you want to see more videos like this, go over to my blog. It's kennysantos.com. You can put your name and email in. You're going to get an awesome audio and growing your business. You can actually see it right here where my cursor is, right here. So actually, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Maybe you can't, but over my shoulder here. That's funny. When I put my finger up, my finger disappears. But anyway, over my shoulder here, you can get a free audio to grow your business. And that's it. Remember this: every day, multiple times a day, the universe sends us miracles. We only got to do 2 things about that. We got to recognize those miracles. And then, of course, my favorite part, we get to accept those miracles, right? Take care and create a great day.